Remember when you were a kid and it got towards the end of the school year and the weather was starting to get nice and you'd say to the teacher, "Can we go outside? Can we have class outside? We'll be good, we promise, we'll be good." Well, we're going to take class outside today just because it is so friggin' nice. My main concern right now, we're out on my deck, is that I don't swivel my head too much and give you this big solar flare that's probably going to blot out your screen. So I'll try to be careful of that, but thanks for joining us. It's Wax Wednesday stuff I picked up, and this past week, if I want to get technical, I only picked up one. But last week we talked about that estate sale that I went to, and last week I only showed you one that I got from that sale. So to round out our episode today, I'm going to show you the other three that I got at that estate sale. And like I say, I didn't walk out of there with 40 or 50 records. I was pretty careful in what I picked, but I was pretty happy with what I got. And it starts with this one right here. First title I have by this artist right here, so it does fill a hole in my shelf. The record I'm talking about is by the Dave Brubeck Quartet. It's called Time Further Out, and it is the follow-up to his breakthrough album, Time Out, which came out in 1959. It became jazz's first million seller. 1959 is a huge year for jazz. It's also the year that Miles Davis put out Kind of Blue. Charles Mingus put out and to point jazz in a whole new direction, Ornette Coleman came out with The Shape of Jazz to Come. And all those albums came out in 1959. But you'd have to consider, as far as a mainstream breakthrough goes for jazz, the Dave Brubeck Quartet. He was a great band leader, piano player. This particular album, as I mentioned, was the follow-up to Time Out. So Time Further Out is what it is called, but it's also subtitled Miro Reflections. More on that here in just a bit. Yes, this first came out in 1961. This is a 1964 pressing. I cross-referenced it and looked it up on Discogs, so I'm still pretty happy with that. This thing is over 60 years old. It's a UK pressing. It's got the paste-over kind of sleeve. That's kind of glued in and enveloped, so that's kind of cool. And very indicative of UK releases in the 60s, in fact. As for this particular album, the Miro Reflections, this is Dave Brubeck and his musical interpretation of this painting right here by Johann Miro, a contemporary of Picasso and Matisse. This is... I believe the painting itself is called 1925, which I'm assuming is the year it was painted, which makes it 100 years old this year. But Dave goes on to explain a little bit about this particular project. Time Further Out, Miro Reflections, is a jazz interpretation of the Johann Miro painting, 1925, which appears on the cover of this album. Conceived as a blues suite, each reflection is in the form of a 12-bar blues or a variation thereof. He goes on to explain, I feel that in Miro's painting he has expressed in visual terms my own approach to music. That is, a search for something new within old forms, an unexpected perspective, a surprising order, and inner balance that belies the spontaneity of composition. And that's what fuels this project right here. So yeah, this is Dave Brubeck's interpretation of this. And with all the track titles, the tempos are listed on the side too. Tempo was a big thing with Brubeck and his whole aesthetic. But also he drew reference from these numbers here in composing these tempos. So take what you will from it. It's just a good record, and you can see why he was the mainstream breakthrough for jazz. And guys like Miles kind of a little angry at this, but it's very melodic. Like he says, it's a 12-bar blues suite. So this stuff is not challenging in a sense where, like, don't get me wrong, the musicianship is amazing. Like Joe Morello, the drummer, he's got some fantastic moments here with a couple of great solos. Sorry about that. Also, to mention, Eugene Wright is in this band. He's the bass player. He's a black musician in an otherwise all-white band. So this was an integrated group as well. So that's very important to recognize, because Dave Brubeck was faced with some opposition when he showed up to some of his gigs, especially in the South and the Midwest. They say, you can't go on stage with that musician. He said, I'm not going on stage without that musician. There'll be no show. And usually, of course, he won out. So cheers to Dave Brubeck on that. And this album is like just fantastic to listen to. It's really, really solid jazz. It's not going to take you in any sort of strange directions, but it's going to be a very enjoyable ride, and highly recommended. So I'm definitely going to look for Time Out as well. So, but the Miro Reflections. Hope I'm saying that right. Probably not. But this is Time Further Out with the Dave Brubeck Quartet. Love this record. Oh, that is a nasty flare. Okay, next up. Buck Owens and his Buckaroos. Now, before we get into this record, let's admire these gentlemen's wardrobes. Ooh-wee. Strutting down New York City. The Carnegie Hall concert with Buck Owens and his Buckaroos. And let's talk about the Buckaroos first. They are an amazing band. This is a fantastic live album. They get behind Buck's songs like with a pretty good intensity. Buck's a pretty good frontman. If you are a fan of his, all his big ones are here. Act Naturally, which was actually covered by the Beatles. Also on here, Tiger by the Tail. And Love's Gonna Live Here Again. I think that's my favorite. But this is an important record. This is where country music, I won't say it's the first time it happened, but it's one of those early times when country music crossed over to the pop market. And maybe some of that had to do with another band that invaded America the year previous. Maybe the Beatles? Because when they came over, every journalist was bending their ear and asking them who they listened to. Well, when it came time for Ringo to answer that question, he pointed to his boy, Buck Owens. Ringo liked country music. Who knew? Anyway, you might reason that might be a reason this crossed over to the pop market, because that would have had Buck's name exposed to a whole new generation. A younger generation of fans. So maybe that's how this was one of those crossover pop successes. Not that it went to the top of the charts, but it got on there. So here's to him for that. As for Buck himself, he's part of that. When I say part of that, I should say he is that Bakersfield sound. He's kind of the figurehead for that. That's the Bakersfield sound is country that came from California, basically, as opposed to Nashville or even Texas. And with that, it has its own characteristics. The Bakersfield sound is maybe a little more influenced by rock and roll. It's certainly amplified, and Buck was kind of like its guy. So anyway, Buck Owens and the Buckaroos, very cool. A fantastic live album, very enjoyable, and yeah, cool. Next up, I'm being extra cautious of that sun because it's nasty on my back. It would okay. Again, a UK pressing, a paste over sleeve, and in very good shape. This is Bob Dylan's greatest hits, one of a number of Bob Dylan compilations that have been released over the years, probably one of the earliest ones. When you look at the albums that this kind of encompasses, that's, you know, right up until Blonde on Blonde, so that'll take you up to 66 anyway. And this album probably came out 67, 68, I'm going to guess, probably. It's a good look at that young, it's a good overview of what Dylan brought to the table in the early part of his career. You've got when he was the young, fresh face of folk. You got the stuff like Blowing in the Wind and Times Are a-Changin' Here. You also get his move to pop stardom with the classic Like a Rolling Stone, which went all the way up to #2, but really inspired a generation. What else is on here? I think my favorite, It's All Over Now, Baby Blue. I love that song. The original Mr. Tambourine Man is on here. It's pretty good. And again, a nice, clean 60s pressing. So, you don't take those lightly. This is nice to have. And again, it's a good overview of that early career, because I don't have any Dylan greatest hits compilations. I don't own volumes 1 or 2, so this will kind of take care of that for me. Anyway, Bob Dylan. Do I have to go on about Bob Dylan? Introduced language to pop music, really kind of advanced it as an art form, blah, blah, blah. That's probably what Bob would say too. Final one here today is, I think it's an important record. And when I saw it used, I picked it up. It is Gord Downie's Away Is Mine. What this is it represents the last recordings he made in his lifetime. 2 versions, one with instrumental accompaniment, one is just an acoustic. So there's 2 albums and an album for each. When you think about, these are the last songs he would sing into a microphone and recorded, I think something like just 3 months before he passed away. It makes you realize how special Gord Downie really was. Here's a guy that was well aware that the clock was ticking, and when the instinct might be to hunker down with family and friends and cherish those connections. It almost seemed like, I'm sure he did that as well, but he also treated it like the clock was ticking and he had work to do. Still very creative, obviously. This was put together, I should mention, with Josh Finlayson of the Sky Diggers. So it's a lovely little project. But again, music aside, look at the things that meant a lot to Gord Downie. In particular, Canada and how it's treated its Indigenous peoples. He was very, very key in kind of giving that, or helping to amplify that voice and be heard by people that might not have otherwise heard about, the missing Indigenous women up north, who might not have he like, when you look at Truth and Reconciliation, that's what he was asking for when it came to the residential schools, for Canada to be accountable and make it right. And again, he was doing this work in his final months. So it's something that, he felt his life could be put on hold for. That's how important it was. I'm proud of Canada. I love Canada. I'm so happy that I live here. That is our one black eye, if you ask me, is how we treated the Indigenous population. So anyway, Gord Downie, just an incredible Canadian and a wonderful human being. Not to mention one of the great songwriters that this country's ever came up with. He kind of made Canada cool, at least cool to sing about, by incorporating our identity to it. But don't make the mistake of picking up this album and thinking it's a tragically hip album, because it's very different from that. It's a different feel altogether. It's personal, it's quiet, it's intimate, it's honest, it's hard on your sleeve songwriting. It's Gord Downie at his barest. So, good one to wrap on. Hey, have yourselves a great week, everybody. Remember, home is where your records are, so throw one on tonight, and we'll talk to you in 7. For Wax Wednesday stuff I picked up, I'm Rob. Cheerio.